The coffee was still hot when Linda heard her daughter-in-law's voice cut through the quiet house like a blade through silk. "I want a divorce, Daniel, and I'm taking everything, the house, the car, the savings account, all of it." Linda's hand froze around her mug. She was sitting at the kitchen table in her son's home, having driven 3 hours the night before to surprise them for their 5th anniversary. She'd brought a homemade lemon cake, Daniel's favorite since he was 7 years old. It sat on the counter now, wrapped in plastic, completely unaware of the war breaking out in the next room. Linda was 62 years old. She had buried a husband, raised 2 children alone, survived a breast cancer scare, and once chased a raccoon out of her garage with nothing but a broom and sheer stubbornness. She thought she had seen everything life could throw at a person. She had not seen this. Her son Daniel was 34, kind-eyed, soft-spoken, the sort of man who still held doors open for strangers and remembered his neighbors' birthdays. He had married Cassandra 5 years ago in a garden ceremony where Linda had cried so hard she soaked through 2 handkerchiefs. Cassandra had been beautiful that day, dark hair pinned up with tiny white flowers, laughing at something Daniel whispered in her ear at the altar. Linda had loved her. She wanted that on the record, somewhere, even if only in her own heart. She had genuinely, warmly, foolishly loved her daughter-in-law. Now she sat motionless, straining to hear through the thin wall separating the kitchen from the living room, feeling deeply guilty for listening and completely unable to stop. "Cassandra," Daniel's voice was low, confused. "What are you talking about? Where is this coming from?" "It's been coming for a long time," Cassandra said. "You just weren't paying attention." "I've been working. I've been trying to build something for us." "For us?" A sharp laugh. "Daniel, you haven't taken a single vacation in 2 years. You missed my sister's wedding because of a work conference. You forgot our anniversary last year and thought a gas station card made it better." Silence. Linda closed her eyes. She remembered that anniversary. Daniel had called her, embarrassed, asking what he could do to fix it. She had told him flowers and a real apology. She had not known the damage had already been running much deeper than a forgotten date. "I'm not saying you're a bad person," Cassandra continued, and her voice was different now. Not cold exactly, but terrifyingly composed, the voice of someone who had made a decision long ago and was only now speaking it aloud. "I'm saying we want different things. I've wanted them for a while. I just kept hopping, you'd notice." "Then tell me now. Tell me what you want and I want out, Daniel. I want the house because I've been the one maintaining it. I want the car because mine broke down 6 months ago and you never prioritized replacing it. I want my half of the savings because I worked too, even if you seem to have forgotten that." Linda set down her mug very carefully, as if sudden movement might shatter something important. She wanted to storm into that room. Every fiber of her maternal instinct was screaming at her to walk through that doorway, put herself between her son and whatever wrecking ball was swinging toward him. But something held her back, a wisdom she had earned through years of hard experience. The knowledge that sometimes love means staying in your chair even when everything in you wants to charge forward. She had interfered once before, early in their marriage. A small argument about Christmas plans that she had inserted herself into with what she believed were good intentions. It had taken Daniel 6 months to fully forgive her and Cassandra a full year. She had sworn to herself after that, their marriage was their business. Her job was to love them both, not manage them. So she sat. She pressed her palms flat against the table. She breathed. The conversation in the other room continued, cycling through the strange grief of 2 people dismantling something they had once built together with such hope. She heard Daniel's voice crack once, just once, and it cost her more than she could measure. She heard Cassandra's composure hold steady, which somehow hurt in a different way, because Linda recognized it. She recognized the sound of a woman who had already done all her crying in private. She had sounded like that herself, once, when she told her own children that their father wasn't coming home. Eventually, the voices stopped. She heard a door close, the bedroom, then footsteps, and Daniel appeared in the kitchen doorway. He looked the way people look when they've been hit by something they didn't see coming, even though, in hindsight, all the signs were there. A little gray around the eyes, like the ground had shifted under him and he wasn't sure yet where to put his feet. He saw his mother sitting at the table and stopped. "Mom," his voice broke on the single word. "Come here," Linda said quietly. He crossed the kitchen and sat down heavily in the chair across from her, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. Linda reached across the table and covered his hand with hers, the same hand she had held when he was 4 years old and afraid of thunderstorms, when he was 16 and devastated after his first heartbreak, when he was 28 and standing at his father's grave trying not to fall apart. Some gestures are ancient. Some gestures do not need words. "She's leaving," he said finally. "She wants the house, the car, everything." "I heard." He looked up, surprised, then let out a short, humorless breath. "Right, the walls." "I wasn't trying to listen." "I know, Mom." He turned his hand over and held hers. "What do I do?" And here was the moment Linda had been afraid of, because she had opinions. She had significant, detailed, highly specific opinions about what had just happened in that living room. She had thoughts about Cassandra's tone, about the coldness of the delivery, about announcing a divorce with a list of assets like a business transaction, rather than a conversation between two people who had once loved each other. But she also had thoughts about her son, about the conference, the forgotten anniversary, the car that had sat broken for 6 months while Daniel worked 12-hour days and apparently assumed everything at home was fine because no one had explicitly told him it wasn't. She had thoughts about how two people can fail each other in completely different ways and both still be responsible for what breaks. "You don't do anything today," she said carefully. "Today you feel what you're feeling. You don't make decisions, you don't call lawyers, you don't send emails you can't take back." She seemed so sure. "She's had longer to get to sure than you have. That's not necessarily an advantage for her." Linda squeezed his hand. "It just means you're at different places in the same story." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Did you know? Did you see something I didn't?" "I saw a woman who wanted to be chosen," Linda said slowly, choosing each word like stepping stones across water. "And I saw a man who loved his family but showed it mainly through working hard for them. Those aren't the same language, Daniel. You were both speaking, but maybe not to each other." He absorbed that. She watched him absorb it, watch the defenses rise and then, slowly, fall again. "That doesn't mean she gets to ambush me," he said quietly. "No," Linda agreed. "It doesn't. The way she did this wasn't kind. You deserved a real conversation before it reached this point. Both of you deserved that." She paused. "But the conversation still needs to happen, not this version of it. A real one. If there's any part of this marriage either of you wants to save, that conversation needs to happen." "And if she doesn't want to save it?" Linda looked at her son for a long moment. His father's eyes. His father's stubbornness, too, the kind that disguised itself as quiet dedication. She felt the old grief rise up and merge with this new grief, the way rivers join without losing their separate currents. "Then you grieve it honestly," she said, "and then you figure out what comes next, one step at a time. You've done hard things before." "Not like this." "No," she admitted, "not exactly like this, but you're not doing it alone." 3 days later, Linda drove back home with the lemon cake still in her backseat, because nobody had ever gotten around to eating it. But the night before she left, something happened that she hadn't expected. Cassandra knocked on the guest room door and stood in the doorway, looking less composed than she had in the living room, looking, in fact, like someone who was also very tired and very sad. "I know you heard everything," Cassandra said. "I did," Linda said. "I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to be on my side." "I know." Cassandra looked at the floor. "I still care about him. I just couldn't keep going the way we were going." "I believe you," Linda said, and she meant it. There were no villains in this story. That was the hardest part, the part that kept Linda awake on the long drive home, watching the highway unspool in her headlights while the untouched cake sat behind her. There were only two people who had loved each other imperfectly, in different directions, until the distance between them became too wide to call the same place home. And a mother who loved her son enough to stay in her chair when everything in her wanted to fight, Because some battles can only be won by the people living them.